Aren't you about tired of listening to sports shows with all the woke bullshit? So are we. This is Patriot Sports Radio. Patriot Sports Radio. Fed up with the national talking heads and biases of mainstream sports media. If it's sports, from the high school level to the pros, we're talking about it. Like the red-blooded Americans we are.
God bless America.
God bless America.
God bless America.
Let's do this. And now, here's Eric, Angela, John, Chris, and the coach.
Welcome back, my friends. If you're new, then welcome in Patriot Sports Radio. My name is Eric. I'm your host. Glad to have you with us. Thank you all those subscriptions, reviews. Chris is over there with like 5 screens making the show work. The rest of the usual suspects are here. Coach in a car, John in a headband, Angela in her sports nook. Plus, we have a guest tonight. Along with this announcement, Football Thursdays are back. 8 weeks, 8 divisions. We will break them down team by team. What happened last season, what they did in the offseason, fantasy relevant players, and of course, what will happen this season. It all kicks off with tonight's show, a conversation with our new best buddy, Bob Lung. And if that name sounds familiar to you, then you probably read his annual fantasy football consistency guide available on Amazon. Or maybe it's because he's the originator, the architect, if you will, of the Fantasy Football EXPO in Canton, Ohio. Ever heard of it? Welcome, Bob. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys. Great intro. Love the woke stuff. That's fun. Yes, I am tired of it. But yeah, no, thank you for having me, and very excited to get started to talk with you guys. I know you guys are coming to the expo. You're very excited about having you, at the event, and yeah, it's going to be a blast. And you probably heard the announcement, but we can wait on that if you want.
Let it out. Just let it out of the bag. Let's go.
Des Bryant is coming to the fantasy
Shut
football.
the front door.
The guy who dropped the ball in Green Bay? I know that guy.
I wouldn't say that to him.
Hey, I love that guy.
You won't be woke then. You'll be out.
I love that guy for 4 years at Oklahoma State. Me, coach, big Oklahoma State football fans. That guy carried that stadium for 4 years until
Coach loved him in Dallas.
Oh, get out of here. Coach loved Dallas.
Prototypical alpha wide receiver.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, he wants to put together a team for the flag football tournament.
Oh my gosh, nice.
I'm prepared to tear my Achilles for that.
I've already tore both of mine, so I said he could be on my team.
Awesome.
So, Bob Lung, first question. Are you a pothead fucker?
I'm an alcoholic. So, as much as I would love to do that, I love to smoke cigars. Nice. I have someone in my family that does that. I won't mention the name, just in case she's listening. But it's supposedly for medical reasons.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'll be like, no, but but my drug of choice is always alcohol.
How long have you lived in Canton?
My entire life, which in September will be 60 years.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting point. I was born 11 days after the Pro Football Hall of Fame opened. So it opened September 7th, 1963, and I was born September 18th. So I said, I meant to be here. I was meant to be part of this world, right?
Yep.
I was born that close to the opening of the Hall of Fame. So,
how many times have you been there as a Canton resident? It's got to be a bunch.
Well, so here's the thing. I think, and I know I've been on the show before, right? Talked with you guys. Yep. So I've been a driver for Hall of Fame weekend for 34 years. So every year I drive a different Hall of Famer all weekend long. I'm like their personal chauffeur all weekend. So I've driven Al Davis, John Madden. This year I'm going to DeMarcus Ware, John Lynch, Kurt Warner. I mean, on and on and on. And so every year, so I'm always in the Hall of Fame. So I feel like I'd probably know it better than most of the people that work there by now. But, I went as a kid. I remember my grandpa taking me to all the games, sitting in the little, almost like high school, metal bleachers to watch pros play. And, now it's a 25,000, seat stadium and, all the bells and whistles and press boxes and cool stuff. So
NFL always gets bigger. It's like the government. Yeah, with the expo, I'm sort of I'm like this kid who won't shut up about Christmas, but it's not even Halloween. It's very annoying. Like, we should do this, we should get this for the expo. What about this? As if it's next week. But
7 weeks away.
It's coming. Before we get into all that, I want to talk about Big Guy Fantasy Sports and these consistency guides. This is the 6th edition of the consistency guide.
This is actually the 8th edition, but 6 times nominated as one of the best magazines by Fantasy Sports Writers America, 6 years in a row. So we won it in 2018. So 8 years doing it, but 6 years nominated. So.
It took the committee 2 years to get their shit together.
Actually, it took me 2 years to mail it in to the FSWA. So they could actually, since I started putting it in, I've won, or I've been nominated for it also too.
How much time does that take? Because I'll tell you, I'm trying to do some preseason rankings and not even maybe like a top 200, not even super extensive. And it's like another job.
It is, when you add, the guide and the expo together, and then my full-time job of being a CFO during the day, it's a busy life, but I've been empty nested now for 10 years. My kids are all out of the house. It's just me and my wife. So she's got her hobbies and I've got mine. So, basically I start right after the season ends in early January, start putting all the data together and converting it into, words and then into a book and then I kind of have it all done and ready for the draft. And then I just make adjustments to players who may have been affected by the draft. A guy that, they drafted, Bijan Robinson, pretty much took Tyler Algier out of the picture, that kind of stuff. But, and so I always try to have it out early May and be the first one out because I don't write about rookies.
Okay. Now, what about Big Guy Fantasy Sports? Who's all involved in that? So you got a website, you got the consistency guides, and then you're also a CFO, and in your spare time, you organize the biggest fantasy football expo in the country.
Yeah, that's pretty much my day. Some of it intertwines. Hopefully my people at work aren't listening. But I may do a few things during the day that have to do with fantasy football, but sometimes I have to do some work stuff at night. So it's pretty much nonstop. But when what they say, when you enjoy what you're doing, it's never work. So it's never work.
So just you and a few buddies said, "Hey, we love fantasy football. Let's start Big Guy Fantasy."
Yeah, the Big Guy Fantasy was just. I had written for many sites during my years, because I've been writing for about 20 years now. I wrote for, Roto Experts and the Fan Balls and various stuff like that. But the problem was with most big sites is that they don't, my thing is kind of it's kind of a side thing. It's consistency. Okay, that's cute. But so I always felt like I want to do more about it. I want to do more articles. I want to put more data. I want to create tools. And so, pretty much back 6, 7, 8 years ago when I started the book, I decided that I was just going to do my own website and sell the book on it, sell it on Amazon and just, and I've created tools that you can put in your own scoring method. It tells you how consistent the players are in that league, in your league, specifically. There's tools that show the history of and how they do at home versus away against good defenses, bad defenses, all the data that you could use from a consistency standpoint that would help you in DFS, season-long leagues, all that kind of stuff. So
and betting.
Yeah, and betting too. I mean, I'm trying to work on a consistency model for prop bets to show the consistency of how many times they went over, under, not just the average that they've had.
You're sprecking my lingity there. I love prop bets. I learned, I don't know when it was, maybe 3-4 years ago when the bots really came into DFS and just started crushing the common man. But I just stopped winning basically altogether. And I'm like, why am I putting together this lineup and getting 7 out of 9 correct and winning $2.14 when I could go 7-2 on their prop bets? And then I just moved over to become a degenerate gambler. So
that's right.
When you're talking about these consistency guys, like, that can help me as well. So what inspired you to start the Fantasy Expo? There just wasn't one and you couldn't believe it? Because I was surprised to learn that it's only a few years old.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. So again, I've been in this industry for 20 years. Back in 2011, I was writing for Roto Experts out of New York. I was still living in Canton, but they were out in New York. And there was a lot of big names there. I mean, Adam Rona, Scott Engel, Dr. Roto, all the guys, that you hear about nowadays. We were all there together. And so they decided to put together their own Fantasy Football Expo at the Atlantic City Convention Center. This massive place. It was horribly expensive to get a booth. Now, I didn't care because I worked for them, so I was just going to go and help work the booth. But, I saw some of the, they were charging a couple $1,000s for a booth and $90 a day just to get into the thing. But the thing they did poorly was, one, it was too expensive, too big. What they also did was in the back of the hall, they had all these former players come in and sign autographs. Well, what happened was they were selling tickets for $90 to people, but those people walked right past all the fantasy booths, got their autographs, ran right back out and sold them on eBay to make their $90 plus back. And they never really stopped at our booths. And so, I saw there what not to do. And so 2019 or 2018, I put together the Kings Classic drafts, which is kind of the best of the best, was coming to Canton, Ohio. And we drafted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and how, ESPNs and the CBS Sports and all the people that, the big boys that and love. And so I wanted to have this best of best draft. So that happened in 2018. And then 2019, a bunch of people went to the Tony Romo Fantasy Sports Convention down in Dallas, and they kind of complained a lot about the same things that happened in 2011. It was too big, it was too expensive, and there was a bunch of people just signing autographs, and that's all they cared about.
Know your audience.
Yeah. And so a lot of people at that point on Twitter said, we need a Fantasy Football Expo for us people, the people that have full-time jobs but have this passion and this,
the guys in $50 leagues.
Yeah, right. And so I said, well, I have the Pro Football Hall of Fame right here, and we already do this Kings Classic on the week after Hall of Fame. Why don't we just add an expo to it the next day and see what happens? And so I did that, and we had like 30 booths sold, and but only 75 people showed up, and it was it was nice, it was okay, but. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll try and make it bigger in 2020. And of course, life went to shit. And so that didn't happen. And then 2021, I think, was just the perfect storm. Everybody was, by August of 2021, the vaccinations were pretty much out. Everybody was, vaccinated and all that, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, well, why don't we open this back up and see what we can do this year with the expo? And 500 people showed up. And last year, 750 people showed up. And this year, we think 1,000 people are going to show up. So it just kind of clicked because I made booths like $375 and it's only $20 to get into the thing for the day. And, a whole weekend package with, parties and the drafts and a ticket to the Hall of Fame is like $75 for the whole weekend. So I was like, nice. and I could make a little money and make it worth my time, but I wasn't killing anybody to have to do that. And like I said, the amazing thing was 80% of the people that showed up to the expo are from out of state.
Yeah.
In fact, we had 5 people from overseas.
We appreciate it so much. Like as a young up and coming sports,
and that's exactly what it was about, was helping folks like you guys. And I was there. Yeah. I mean, I was the young up and coming guy. I was young.
That's awesome.
And so, and I still want to make it that way. And the great thing is that the bigger companies have come along. I mean, last 2 years, NBC Sports has been the title sponsor. Fantasy Life is bringing 10 people. Walter Picks is bringing 18 people. So the sites are really into it. They come in and they really enjoy being a part of it and meeting new fans and making new contacts. And so that's what I wanted it to be about. It's basically a fantasy football convention or reunion every year. And oh, by the way, we're going to have some fun stuff and, play some flag football and cornhole and drink and smoke cigars or whatever. So we can do that.
Hey, Bob, get into a little bit. What can we expect? So we get there Friday. What's our weekend going to be like?
So we always start Friday off that evening with a party right downtown Centennial Plaza. Just like we have in the last couple of years. We're going to have the cornhole tournament again this year. I retired as the champion from last year, so you all have a shot now. You're welcome. So it's just a fun hangout. We do the cornhole. We'll have some things. So everybody who buys a weekend pass, the VIP weekend pass, gets an entry into, and this is donated by the FFPC. They donate, and they did this last year, a $2,000 entry into their $1 million championship.
The big boy.
Yeah.
A ticket to the big boy.
Yeah. So if you come and you bought the weekend pass, you're put into the drawing. We draw 10 people. We put up 100-yard rush right on the big screen, and it runs out. And last year, Britt Flynn from Fantasy Alarm won. And so she got to be in the $1 million thing. I don't know how she did it
at the table.
Yeah.
So that we do that Friday. Like I said, Saturday is the draft day. Draft night out does a great job. So if you just want to come and draft for fun, it's like $30, and you draft in a room with, there's like 12 leagues going on at the same time. They, raffle off, autographed jerseys and all kinds of stuff. This is going to be the
best weekend of all time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm biased, but I've heard people tell me that. I literally had a guy said this was the greatest weekend he had in his life, and I go, I wanted to say you've had a sad life, but I was very proud of him. I said, your wife's not around.
Sure, have you never been to Tijuana?
Like, your wife's not standing close enough to hear that. I mean,
your children
or anything.
No. She's back at home. That's why this is so
That's
great.
Right. That's why it's the greatest weekend of his life. Right.
All right. So now we're at Saturday. What's Saturday night?
Saturday. So like I said, from 5 to 7 is the flag football tournament.
Des Bryant.
And Des Bryant's going to put a team together. Right now he's on my team, but we had a talk, and I don't know if this is true or not. I said to him, I go, okay, I got, me, which, I'm going to be the coach. I'm not playing. I said, but I got my best friend who is a all high school quarterback. I said, he's more than happy to throw you the football, and I said, I've got my son-in-law. He's like, 28 years old, very, very active, very fit. I said, and then we'll get some other people. But, if you want to bring Tony Romo or somebody with you, that's fine.
He could compete for
the ringer. You want to bring in a ringer? That's okay.
He could compete for the job. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he said, well, actually, I was thinking about bringing some other former players like T.O. and Chad Ochocinco. And I went,
okay, we'll do that. I'll quarterback.
If 85 is there, I'm not going to do anything else except follow him around. Can I drive you to McDonald's? Can I drive you to McDonald's?
He seemed pretty serious about it.
I can still spin it, Bob. I can still spin it.
All right.
I don't know that they have. I don't know if they had the speed to run the flag route with my ball, but
we only play 35 yards, so it's kind of a modified flag football.
Okay. A lot of post routes.
We kind of play it like a college overtime. So each team starts at the 35. You got 4 plays to either score a touchdown or get as many yards, and then the other team takes over. And it went well last year. In fact, it went almost too fast because everybody thought that on the first play they should throw it deep. And they got intercepted, and the next team went for 1 yard and won. Good thinking. So that went well. But anyway, so that's that. And then Saturday night party will be in the end zone at Tom Benson Stadium, which we had it last year. We can go out on the field, throw some footballs around, and Des will be there. So there you go. You can throw Chris. You can throw some passes to Des. And then that's pretty much Saturday night. Huh?
Is SGPN sponsoring that one?
Yes. Yes.
Sean and Ryan?
No, I'm sorry. They're sponsoring the Friday night party.
Friday night party. Who's got the Saturday night party, Bob?
Saturday night party is a new company called Fantasy Football Advice Forum. So new guy. So he owns his own car dealership, so that's where he has the money to pay.
Hell yeah.
So he's trying to make an impact. So that's a good way to do it.
We're
happy to have them on as well. And then Sunday, the Expo's all day. Sirius XM will be Fantasy Sports Radio will be broadcasting live like they did last year. We will have 4 panel discussions going on at the same time like we did last year. Every topic you can think of, from redraft leagues and dynasties all the way down to Devy, sports betting, prop bets, you name it. So if you guys want to be on the prop bet panels or any of that stuff, certainly let me know.
Look at them.
Solving the mystery of what happened to yards gained after close, a great predictive metric that just vanished from the earth.
There you go. You can come and talk about it. So we'll be doing that. There's 50 booths again this year.
We got one of them with Fantasy Sports Corp will all be together. We got a nice booth there, didn't we?
Yeah, I think your number. Here's my number. Here it is.
Number 1.
You guys are number pretty close to the front. I remember.
That's what we want. We want to be right by the door, getting the fresh fish as they come in. Here, have a.
Oh yeah, you're number 12. You're one of the VIPs. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Very important.
So you're in between. You're like around Trophy Smack and football guys. So you're gonna have a lot of people walking by you.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, the food and drink available to purchase all day. Like I said, all kinds of topics going on. Des will be talking about his new fantasy football game that he's a part of.
Nice.
I mean, we have the women in fantasy panel that will be talking.
Nikki will be there.
I don't know if you know who Lisa Ann is, but she'll be there.
Nice.
No, is she a fantasy football?
She is now.
Oh.
She is now.
No, not familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe she was on a soap opera or something.
Yeah. I told my wife, I said that there was no hotel rooms left, so she was going to have to stay at our house for the weekend.
Yeah. Hey, you do what you can, right? You're a good Christian man. I mean,
that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's what you got to do. I'm so excited. Would you recommend we do the Hall of Fame early when we get there or at the end of the weekend?
So I would say it depends when you get in. Are you going to get in Thursday night?
Thursday night.
Well, then, yeah. So the best thing to do would probably go Friday morning and get it done, Friday early. Because we don't have anything till 6 o'clock Friday night. So go then. Most people will go Saturday during the day because they're not in a King's Classic or one of the drafts. But it'll be super busy because everybody goes then. So if you go Friday, you kind of beat the rush and kind of enjoy your time. But
that's me. I'm a beat the rush guy. I'm a leave in the 8th inning guy. Get there first. Nobody in line in front of me. Well, this is awesome. I'm excited. I can possibly sit there with a coffee and talk to Matt Harmon about wide receivers for an hour.
There you go. Reception perception, right?
This is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal stuff. Coach, 10-2. Eyes on the road.
Guys, I'm sorry. I was sitting there in a ball game. I walked out. It was like 78 degrees. And then people start running to the parking lot and telling me there's a tornado coming. So I had to relocate.
Oh, that's life in the Panhandle State.
That's exactly right. So I'm moving up the street. They're going to rain out the game. I got reservations at Chili's, which you guys can all appreciate. And that's where I'm headed, to the Chili's parking lot.
So the hurricane can just blow through there.
I have never seen a Chili's get taken out. I think you're safe.
No.
Let's talk some fantasy football, Bob. What's your favorite format to play, and what are your favorite platforms?
By format, you mean like PPR versus or auction versus
Flex.
snake?
Yeah, Superflex, PPR,
Okay.
18 leagues.
Right. So my favorite type is always auction. It should only be auction, but
that's what everybody who's done auction says.
Oh, so much fun, so good. Unless you stink at it, but you can't stink at it if you don't keep playing it. So you gotta do it, and it's really fun. I can't say any more about it. Now the problem is it takes you 5 hours to get through a freaking draft, but
yeah,
it's still fun. Format wise, I think they all, since I've been playing for so long in so many different leagues, I'm like most people, 20, 30 leagues a year. And it's just like,
I don't think that's most people.
No, isn't that most people? Oh, I told my wife.
20 or 30 leagues a year?
Well, you get invited to them all. Like, hey, Bob, will you be in my draft? Because, you're somebody everybody knows and you're a celebrity. And I'm like, I don't think I'm a celebrity, but they do. And they're like, be in my draft and be in my charity draft. And will you be in my charity draft? And next thing you know.
Supposed to say no?
Yeah, I can't do that.
Gosh, how much cash do you have
I don't
floated
want
out?
to not support the people trying to raise money for charity, right? I mean, I got to be.
Exactly.
Again,
this goes back to taking Lisa Ann into your home.
Right,
It's
exactly.
the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. So anyway, So I played in so many different ones. They're all, I mean, I'm so used to just your straightforward PPR, one quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 flex, kicker, tight end, all that kind of stuff. That those just are like almost like I'm on cruise control. So like the Kings Classic is that, but we have 3 flex and no kicker and defense. And so, now you get into some deep stuff and getting to some deep players. I love, I've gotten to started to like Dynasty. I never was much for into Dynasty, but I kind of like Dynasty because I'm the other guy. I'm the guy that everybody hates who trades all of his draft picks away so that he has veteran and then, is always in the playoffs every year because screw Dynasty. I don't want to. You know what a Dynasty is? Being in the playoffs every year. And I don't need to do that by drafting, the top players every year because most of them don't work out that well.
I'm supposed to hold on to my 20.
Yeah. Just keep mortgaging the future. It doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah. So when a guy gets in about his 2nd or 3rd year and he looks like, he's got some consistency basis to him, then I'll be like, hey, I'll trade you my 3rd round pick for that guy. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm sure he's okay. He's average. And then that 2 years later, that guy's a star. And I'm like, okay, that's good. So I don't have to go to the rookie drafts. It's fun. It doesn't matter. Did I answer the question?
Eric there.
Oh,
Eric is frozen in time. He'll come back. He always comes back.
To the porn sites, and all of a sudden now you can't. His computer's locked.
Yeah. He did a little too much independent research, and now he's frozen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gosh. Let's. I don't want to jump into something if he's going to jump right back in. I think our home base is lost.
Lost everybody.
They'll be back.
On the dark side of
we can watch Coach. Now. Coach, turn your phone so we can see where the hurricane's coming or the tornadoes coming from.
Right.
Yeah, let's get a look at the environs.
Yeah, he'll be like one of those weather the weather guys. I'm standing here. It is 700
at a 45-degree angle against the wind.
Yeah, right.
Right.
While some dude's naked jogging behind him in the rain. That's my favorite. See that girl.
Only in America.
Yeah, only in America. I love it.
No, I thought we were going to get lucky here and it was going to bypass, but it looks like it's headed straight towards us. I moved here and it looks even worse. So.
Oh gosh.
Anyhow,
it
is what it is. At this point, I'm committed to the triple dipper.
There you go.
So it's going to happen.
Yeah. They are coming up with a remake for the Helen Hunt Classic Twister, and I think you're in the eye of that right
Hey,
now.
they're filming that in Oklahoma right now. Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I talked to a buddy of mine yesterday that was working on that. It's actually happening right here in town, or not in Oklahoma, but.
You got to get on those extra call sheets. You can be standing in the background.
I know. I got to be an extra so I can stand around there and watch that go on. Yeah, that'd be good. Hey, there's Coach in the background. But
eat an ice cream.
Get a catapult to throw the cows. Like Monty Python.
Yeah. I love it.
You said the fantasy deal. What on your formats? Some of the ones you play in. You talked about the dynasty a little bit. What's your favorite as far as just regular? I mean, are you pro kicker or adding an extra flex, or what do you? I mean, if we're picking your brain.
Honestly, I think we can do without kickers and defense, but I'm okay if we play them. You'll notice that I've never done a consistency model on either one of them.
Yeah.
Because there probably isn't any, or at least I doubt there is. I guess as long as it doesn't get too weird, like some of these eliminators that they did last year, there was some kind of crap with the quarterbacks and I don't know, there was something about if you threw incompletions, it deducted points and quarterbacks were getting a good quarterback was scoring 10 points a week. And I'm like, what? But then they had wide receivers that were getting, points per catches, points per targets, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like
that's me. Down. I mean, I think it can get a little too complex that it gets to be where you're you can't figure out any kind of strategy.
But
right. That's kind of the cool thing is fantasy football really was a jackpot from the NFL standpoint, because it made all comers, even, your nerds that weren't into football are now in it. And it was, I think that was the genius in what has made the NFL so successful, is the fact that the fantasy football is such a big draw to all parties, not just your regular fan. It's included people that never would have been a fan before, just simply because of I don't want to say the gambling aspect, but the game within the game.
Mm-hmm. Which, even though they've quote, accepted it, and they have obviously stuff on their website and that, I was always shocked that the NFL, with all the money they have and the ability to put on massive events like these, NFL drafts in various cities, why they wouldn't do their own fantasy football expo, right? I mean,
I agree. And that was kind of where my question was leading, is it shocks me that there's not more of these around the United States, because fantasy football is a gazillion-dollar industry across the board.
Right.
It just surprises me that there's not more of that goes on. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that I'm very blessed that I put this stuff together basically just for us people, like you said, and I say us by, non-big sites. But really what helped drive this thing was the big sites all thought it was a cool idea and accepted it. So the Andy Barons from Yahoo and Dave Richards from CBS Sports, Mike Clay from ESPN, all are as excited as we are to come in for this thing, to be a part of it, to share, to mingle with us little people. But they also have zero, they have no egos. I mean, and that's the other cool thing, is like you walk up and talk to one of those guys, and you can chat, and they don't get defensive. They don't give you the, who do you know who I am? I'm the smart, I'm the smartest guy around kind of thing. They never do that. And I think that's helped really make this easier for me from a promoting standpoint, because you don't have that. People always complain about, well, on Twitter, there's these trolls and this and that. And I said, you won't see that at the expo. It's everybody gets along, everybody shares their ideas. And yeah, they're going to have discussions about whether you like this guy or that guy, more or less from a player perspective. But that's your opinion. And, we move on and we chink our glasses and, we agree to disagree.
That's
Fantasy
awesome.
football
That's
community
awesome.
is full of good people.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's some trolls out there on Twitter, but they're not part of the community. They're just trolls.
Yeah.
Right.
That's showbiz, baby.
Well, thanks for your time, Bob. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Are you heading into Chili's?
Well, I mean, I was going to.
He's going to until the hurricanes
buzzer.
turn towards him.
I've wasted enough of Bob's time tonight, and I can't wait for the expo.
Not wasting my time, though.
Let's talk
I
some
appreciate
nuts.
you.
Yep. Thanks, Coach.
Some nuts and bolts fantasy football stuff. Running backs had a down year last year. Justin Jefferson's the consensus -- pick. Wide receiver
I
seems
disagree,
to
but
be
okay.
the move in the first round. I've been a running back guy since forever. It's worked for me. It did not work for me last year. I don't know if I can switch though. Is it time to start taking wide receivers first?
It really is. And I've been there with you. Last year, the interesting thing is all those leagues I was in, my most successful leagues, ones that I did really well, whether it's playoffs or winning a championship, was because I picked near the end of the first round and I went double wide receiver, just because, a lot of the running backs were gone. Right. So I was taking a Jamar Chase or a, Justin Jefferson or, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek, those kind of guys. And so I'm like, well, I'll take these two and then I'll just get some other running backs later. And those are the leagues that I kicked ass in. And the ones that I was in the early part of first round, where I was drafting, people like, Jonathan Taylor, of course, the number one last year, certainly was a buzzkill. And McCaffrey didn't turn out bad, but Najee Harris didn't have a great year. Just so many people let us down. And now this year, every draft I've been in, best ball, regular, whatever. I was in an FSGA draft at the conference here a couple weeks ago. And, you went, Jefferson, Chase, Tyree, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all those guys are going in the first and early second round. And you can pass on them. In fact, I was just doing a best ball, one of the whatever that underdog best balls, and I had like the 4th pick, and I decided to go. There you go, not Eckler, Najee Harris, and no, I did take AJ Brown, but I had like Najee Harris and Saquon Barkley in round 2 and 3, which sounds like, oh my gosh, how do you get them that late? But that's where they're going. And the amazing part was, now I'm looking at my team that I'm going to continue to draft, and I'm looking at the wide receiver selections, and it's garbage. And I'm like, yeah, but there's all these great running backs still available. And it was funny because in the FSGA draft that I did, and I was the 7th pick in 14, I went AJ Brown, Deebo Samuels, and Calvin Ridley with my first 3 picks, and still in round 4 and 5 drafted Aaron Jones and Alexander Madison.
Wow.
Now that's a team I like.
That's the move. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I just, it's like, Saquon and Najee Harris are 2 good running backs to have. And I've got AJ Brown, but now I'm looking at my second my second receiver. And I didn't feel good about it. In fact, I washed my hands after I made the pick. I had to take DJ Moore as my number 2 wide receiver. Oof. And I'm like, I didn't really feel good about that at all. But he was the best available guy that was sitting there. I mean, everybody else is kind of a crapshoot. Like, you can't take a chance on Mike Evans this year.
No,
I mean, he couldn't have passed, but I'm looking at him like, I can't draft you.
As your wide
receiver.
So
I'm going to take DJ Moore over you just because your quarterback sucks more than Fields.
So you said
sorry.
That's my guy. No, go ahead. Sorry.
You said you disagree with Jefferson being the 101. Who is the number 1 pick this year in your mind?
It is the other wide receiver, Jamar Chase. And here's why. Jamar Chase last year obviously missed 5 games. But in the 12 games that he played, and some of them was after he had his injury and missed some games in the middle of the season, he was a perfect 100% consistent 12 for 12. Justin Jefferson was only 76% consistent, which actually ranked him 12th. And if you had him in any championship game and you watched him score 2.5 points while your team took a dump, that's why I can't draft him number 1 overall.
That's the kind of thing that'll hang with you through the off season.
Right. But he also missed 3 other games that he was under 11 points. And for someone to be number 1 overall, they have to be, in my opinion, they have to be at least 90% consistent or have the ability thereof. And Justin Jefferson could do that, but now they have KJ Osborne and rookie Jordan Addison as their 2 and 3. Jamar Chase has T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd still. So I feel like teams are going to be covering Jefferson like a blanket, and they'll still target the shit out of him. But on the other hand, you saw what Jair Alexander did to him in Green Bay in that Week 17 game, and I guarantee you teams are watching that tape over and over, and they're figuring out how to do that. And so unless he's got to come out and prove that was a fluke, and he knows how to beat that situation. But boy, that scared me. And you rarely see Chase get shut down.
Yeah, completely like that.
Because he's got too many weapons around him that they can't do that.
So you've got these consistency guides. You're the guy to ask. Who are the most consistent wide receivers that I should be looking at in the first couple rounds if I'm going to make this change?
Well, there was a bunch of them over 80% consistent, and that's what you're looking for. 75% is still pretty good or higher, but these are the ones that were over 80% last year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill. Okay, not Jefferson, but he should be 80%. And Devontae Adams was also 76%. All of them. And then another one that was 90% consistent, but then got hurt was Keenan Allen. Everybody kind of forgets about him. Yeah, he's old, but Justin Herbert loves him. And if he can stay out there and stay healthy, he is one of those guys. He's not gonna be top 10 in scoring, but it'll be top 15 and it'll be top 12 probably in consistency.
And a couple
Definitely
random weeks. Random weeks, he's going to catch 14 balls.
Yeah, right.
So,
but every week he'll catch 6 for 60, and that's what you're looking for.
Yep.
That's your consistency. And if you get him as your wide receiver 3, which you should, I mean, I have him ranked in 16th, but he'll probably be more of the 25, 28 range when people actually draft him because he's old, which he is.
Yeah. Let's talk about some wide receiver ADPs. I pulled these from Fantasy Pros yesterday. Stephon Diggs is going 11th overall, wide receiver 5. 12, 13, and 14 are Lamb, Adams, and A.J. Brown. With whatever's going on out there where he's leaving practice and he's mad at the coordinator or mad they didn't go get Hopkins after he restructured, whatever the problem is, I think I like those other 3, Lamb, Adams, and A.J. Brown. I think I like all of them better than Stephon Diggs right now.
As much as I love Devontae Adams, I'm really worried about the quarterback situation for the Raiders. I know Garoppolo is supposed to be healthy, but man, you have a bad foot like that. It scares me a little bit. I feel like Derek Carr is a much better quarterback than Garoppolo, but I definitely love CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, those kind of guys. Yeah, I'll probably pass on Diggs. I've always been a fan of Diggs, loved his consistency. I mean, he was 4th last year in total points and had 88%. He's definitely Josh Allen's favorite wide receiver, but when he's disgruntled, and we saw this happen in Minnesota, he doesn't, he starts taking plays off and not being 100% and, because he wants out. So I'm kind of with you. I'm a little bit edgy about taking him in the first round. If he slides at the end of the second, he's my wide receiver 2. Now I feel a little bit differently.
Can I interject for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
How much stock do you put into defensive versus offensive head coach? Because what you see routinely now is that offensive head coaches, which is the majority, are really rising to the top. And it seems like it's almost an arms race in terms of brain power to scheme. Mm-hmm. And you see the final or the conference championships are always typically your offensive gurus. And a lot of the talking heads are talking about specifically with Stephon Diggs and the Bills and disgruntled. And it seems like it's a little bit of a dumpster fire with their defensive coordinator saying, I'm taking a year off, which nobody ever does. Their offensive coordinator goes to Giants. He's killing it theoretically. All of this kind of paints this narrative that if you have a defensive minded head coach, which as a Bears fan, I have one as well, you're kind of doom and gloom. Do you buy into that? And should that go into your consideration for a toss-up with a wide receiver or running back that has offensive versus defensive-minded head coach? I
mean, it's certainly a part of the calculation or part of the mindset, and I have to agree with that. We saw, like you said, in Chicago where they really didn't let them open up for a couple of years. Matt Nagy was always holding back Montgomery for a while. He wasn't getting his due and then got his due. And so, obviously Belichick in New England's never going to throw the ball much. It's going to be a running game, a defensive game. So, I think that all certainly comes into play, when teams have a defensive minded versus an offensive minded for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it moves the needle a little bit, and I think it's a trend that I've seen as just a spectator. Obviously, you're the expert. I'm just curious if you have any hard stats behind it, but that pool of defensive coaches is shrinking, and it seems like they're getting lost in the wake as you've got guys that can go in first 2-3 years and start scheming. They get guys open, and it's just a boat race at this point. So,
I totally agree. I mean, totally 100% in agreement with your thought process. I mean, there's no question that that's what you're seeing out there. And, the other kind of interesting thing is when you do see a team that has an offensive minded head coach, that means their defense usually is, again, the second child to be concerned about. And usually those defenses aren't very strong, which means the offense has to perform even higher to keep up with the bad defense. So that always kind of seems to come into play as well. So teams like the Patriots and, those kind of teams don't give up a lot of points, so they don't have to score a lot of points. Hence, fantasy-wise, not as much as a fan, but you get the Rams or you get the Chiefs and the Bills and the Eagles. They're scoring a lot of points, so is the other team, and it just becomes a shootout, and that's exactly what us fantasy fans want.
Yeah, it's just funny, too. If you do the rundown, it's Patriots, Steelers, Seahawks. It's like, oh, everybody that was good 7 years ago.
Right. When defense won championships, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Chris Olave is going 32nd overall as his average draft position, wide receiver 14. I feel really good about Chris Olave this year. Maybe it's because I traded for him in the Dynasty League last year, but he just looks the type to me. And playing on that turf, they have 13 dome games this year, the Saints do. I feel like he's about to take that step.
Well, interestingly enough, so in the consistency guide, there's an article called Rookies versus Consistency. And what the whole idea of the model is to show people that in a player's first year, even if they're drafted in the first 4 rounds, the rarity of them having consistency over 60% is actually around 10%. So 90% of them fail in their first year of getting just 60% consistent. Not 80 or 90, 60. Now, wide receivers and running backs are about 13 to 15%. So they're obviously above the average, while quarterbacks and tight ends are absolutely worthless. But Chris Olave last year, 73% in his rookie year. So there's right there. And the interesting thing is, of all of the rookies, all the wide receivers that as a rookie were over 60% consistent, all of them maintain the consistency throughout their careers.
We're off to the races, Bob.
Olave is one of those boys.
So you can pretty much determine year one whether they're going to be consistent or not.
Interestingly enough, only at the wide receiver position do we see this happen. In fact, I'll go to your, for those of you referencing your consistency guide, please turn to page 9. But so since 2010, when I started tracking this, over 13 years, there have been 474 players drafted in the first 4 rounds at those 4 positions. 183 wide receivers, and 19 of them were over 60% in their rookie year. That's only 10%. So that's still 90% failure rate. However, when you look at the list, here's the list of those guys who have made it. There might be 1 or 2 that didn't, but very few. So Odell Beckham Jr., Michael Thomas, AJ Green, Jamar Chase, Julio Jones, Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Waddle, Justin Jefferson, Jarvis Landry, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Deebo Samuels. The only one that I feel like didn't make it was Kelvin Benjamin of all of those guys. Okay. Everybody else had a pretty successful career after their rookie season. I mean, Juju has dropped off, but he had some banner years in Pittsburgh whenever A.J. Brown was there. But the rest of those guys all have had outstanding careers or careers still in process. Where if you look at the running backs, you're looking at guys like Barkley and Elliott and Le'Veon Bell, but Eddie Lacy, Doug Martin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, T.J. Yeldon, Trent Richardson, Giovanni Bernard are all in that list. So not every running back explodes after they have that great rookie season. But there is Alvin Kamara's, Fournette, Swift, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor's, Christian McCaffrey's. They're in there. They're certainly talented and stud running backs in there, but not like you see at their wide receiver position for rookies. So I always tell people, yes, the shiny new toys are great to draft early, and you think, and Bijan Robinson could be the next Barkley, Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, who were 90% consistent in their rookie season. He certainly has that potential, but it's still pretty rare.
I lost a lot of games last year to get Bijan, Bob. He better be everything they say he is.
Well, I tell you what, if he could get points for the hype, I don't know if I've seen a player hyped like him in a long time. So
Christian Watson is selfish. You go, John. I got mine written down.
You brought up tight end, and I kind of like the way you compile this, so I'm sold. I'm definitely going to buy. I'm going to be buying this. The tight end position is one that I've spent so much time wondering, why the hell is this not a more effective position by more teams? I think we talked about it probably 2 months ago, and I boiled it down to, you've got guys that can scheme a tight end, and you have coaches that cannot. From your perspective, as you're putting it together, where is there a correlation between consistency of the tight end position and anything else that you can really quantify?
Tight ends are so tough.
Worst.
And it's weird because
they're a hybrid standpoint.
They're a hybrid human. They're a basketball player with plus 60 pounds.
Yeah.
You would think they could maneuver their way and just
that's
be open
the thing
all the time.
You would think, but I think there's so many factors in that position because of these offensive-minded coordinators and coaches that love to have 3 receivers on the field at the same time. So with 3 receivers, the tight end now becomes an afterthought unless your name is Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews. And you'll see years where Evan Ingram, boom, Evan Ingram, bust out. And all of a sudden, Evan Ingram should be drafted highly. No.
Hawkinson last year, he helped me out.
Yeah, right. Like my favorite this year is Dallas Goedert because he was basically almost 90% consistent until he got hurt. But they really only had 2 receivers. They have, obviously A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. So Goddard becomes the 3rd receiver. And I think that's where the tight end has to be good enough to be worthy of being the 3rd receiver or the 3rd option on that team. And that's just very rare to have. George Kittle is that for San Francisco when he's healthy. That's a problem. Because they keep him in to block, he gets hurt. But he's such a good blocker, they can't afford not to.
That's his problem. He's too good at blocking. He should mail it in a little bit. When you look at the consistency of the tight ends last year, it's make sure you haven't eaten too soon before that. It's really ugly. Let me find it. So last
it seems like
year,
it's really situational.
There's a stat you don't have memorized.
Yeah. I in my head I could do it, but I couldn't remember all the numbers. So of course Kelce was 100% consistent. Goddard was 83% consistent.
Wow.
The next closest,
Dan Bellinger.
No, TJ Hawkinson at 65%, and yet Hawkinson is going as the number 2 or number 3 tight end in like round 5 or 6. That's great, but 65% consistency is not that outstanding. I mean,
can get 55% probably
consistency out of your 4th receiver. So why draft a tight end that high? Now I'm getting Goddard around like 6 or 7, which is perfect. I mean, I'm just eating that up. But Hawkinson's going in like round 4. And I'm like, I can't do it. Kittle was only 60% consistent. Darren Waller was only 56. Ingram, as good as he was, 5th in total points, 53% consistent. That means almost half of his games, he was scoring less than 8 points.
Oh.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
So that's not good enough. And let's not even get started with Kyle Pitts.
No, let's not. That's my problem, Bob. I have Bijan Robinson because I have Kyle Pitts.
That's good. Trade Kyle Pitts.
Oh, no, I have both.
I know. Don't do it because I don't know if he'll explode, but he'll probably he has to have a better season. He has nowhere to go. Has to.
Derrick Henry's going 20th overall, running back 8. Is this the year? I mean, he's coming off 349 carries. 3 out of the last 4 years, he's gone over 300 carries. But he's not human. He's one of those guys that the regular boundaries of humanity don't apply to him.
You're right.
Is he going to do it again this year?
I don't know if he can be 4th again in total points. I think he's top 12. But, again, if I pick 3 wide receivers and Derrick Henry's sitting in round 4, yeah,
Yeah.
But am I going to pick him in rounds 1 through 3 when I can get, I can get a younger wide receiver and there are just so many good running backs in rounds 4, 5, and 6, like Aaron Jones and, Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Kenneth Walker. Who else was I thinking of? Ramondre Stevenson, Miles
a lot of hype
Sanders,
on him this year.
Khalil Herbert, Alexander Madison. I mean, Alexander Madison, when he's gotten over 13 plus carries in a game, when he was a starter or got significant amount, he averaged like 15.6 fantasy points a game, was like 80% consistent. Now he's the starter. There's nobody to challenge him. And yet he's going in round 5 or 6 for a good Minnesota team that Dalvin Cook used to run wild on. They're going to, they've got Jefferson, so they're not going to stack the box against Madison.
No,
they can't. I feel like that's you don't get too many bell cows nowadays in this world. So if you can get one like Madison in Minnesota or Aaron Jones is still the bell cow in Green Bay. I mean, AJ Dillon, I think they've pretty much realized that he's got great quads, but that's about it.
Yeah, he's a 12 carries, kill the clock guy.
Right.
Miles Sanders, you mentioned, he's going 52nd overall, RB21. I think that's the steal of the draft.
Oh.
I love Miles Sanders this year. He's going to be on every
me,
team I can get him on.
I hear you. And if I didn't get Madison, that would be my next guy in line. So something I put in the profile of the consistency guide, I said, let's take a look at him now this year based on last year's stats. I go, last year, if he would just keep the rushing yards, which I think was around 1,200, he gets 4 more rushing touchdowns this year because Hurts won't be there to steal them all. Mm-hmm. And he adds 30 catches because they never check the ball down. He would have 272 fantasy points and be 7th overall. And he's going, what? Why?
So I can
21.
He's 52nd overall, RB21. So I can hammer wide receivers, and then I can grab Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders in rounds 4 and 5.
Madison, any of those guys. Yeah, and I think
we just won our league.
Good deal. It's a good deal.
Christian Watson's going 61st overall. Wow.
Oh no, poor Eric froze again.
That Wisconsin internet. Well, do you care to comment about?
Well, it's Wisconsin internet, and he was talking about a Packer, which probably caused an overload. Oh, he's back.
Yeah,
his nipples got too hard, and it just shortened
up. Blew up all the servers in Wisconsin because you talk about Christian Watson.
Well, they were. It's a shock to the system. Usually, these Packers wide receivers go 5th overall, not 52nd.
Not anymore.
What does your consistency guide say about him? He had an interesting season last year. He dropped that ball and was in the doghouse for a while. And then he was the greatest wide receiver on the planet for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I say in the profile. I said weeks 10 to 18, Watson had a consistency rating of 75%. Now he goes into the year with Jordan Love as his quarterback. He'll probably certainly be the number 1 wide receiver for that team. There's really nobody else outside of Romeo Doubs there to compete with him. Based on the 80, again, it's one of those like wide receiver. What do you say? I've got 27 as the ADP. Is that pretty close to what you said?
Yeah.
So he's sitting at wide receiver 3, and when I look at kind of like my tier draft list that I have, that's also in the book. And I'm looking for my copy, and I don't have it laying here.
Tiers, you gotta have tiers.
Yeah, you gotta have tiers. But in that area, are the people like Keenan Allen, who you can get at 90%, and I don't know.
Depends what you're shopping for at that point in the draft, I guess.
Yeah. I just don't know if I'm going to be. I guess it just depends on, again, what I'm looking at and what I'm choosing between at that point. Because like I said, in that area, you've got Mike Williams, Metcalf, Drake London.
I like Metcalf too this year.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy's 24th. Cortland Sutton's in there, Deontay Johnson, Jahan Dotson, Ayuk, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which again, I guess,
I
you
just
can get him
can't.
as your wide receiver 3. It's not terrible, but they still have Baker Mayfield, which just sends chills down my spine. So I don't think I'll be drafting any of them as much as I loved them in the past. So that's the thing. I think it just depends on what my other choices are. Now, if Watson falls and I can get him as my wide receiver 4, I think I feel more comfortable about that. Because he's definitely the number 1 guy there. It's just a question of how much are they going to throw the ball. And, especially if the running game is working and they've got a solid defense and win the game. So.
Speaking of Watsons, you're right there in Ohio. You're close to the situation. You're plugged in. Deshaun Watson's going 73rd overall, the 9th quarterback off the board. This may actually be the steal of the draft if he's old Deshaun Watson. Is that's some of the hype that's coming out? Do you think he's going to be back this year with a full off season?
I think just like
off season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those. He can't do any worse. If he does, then everybody in that management will get fired from the coach on down. As a lifetime Browns fan, I hate to get excited about anything because it's just a letdown. On paper, yes, this team should be very good. I mean, they've got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, who had a very good year last year. Good tight end in Njoku. Of course, they got a great offensive line, great running game in Nick Chubb. They've improved their defense. They now have Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator, which I think can get them fired up. They grabbed Zadarius Smith to be on the other side of the line from Myles Garrett. So, Joe Burrow is going to be running for his life, hopefully. If their defensive backfield can do anything, this team should be very good, but that's where it stops. We all go, okay, we hope and pray. And, this is why, I'm an alcoholic because I have to watch Browns games.
It all comes together now. I get it.
Yeah.
We're over an hour. I got a couple more running backs to throw at you. Then I'll leave you alone. I could do this all day.
I can do.
Antonio Gibson, 104th, RB36, left for dead, completely, basically undrafted. Are they going to use him as a receiving back like they did McKissick? Because if they do that, he'll be worth drafting.
That's what I'm hearing from all the sources on SiriusXM radios. And, that's been the talk, is that they want to use Gibson in that role. Let Brian Robinson be the power back, and which he is, and let Gibson be that guy. And if they do that, I mean, again, they pretty much have a rookie quarterback. I mean, it's his second year, but he didn't play much. I have to believe that he's got potential. He's definitely one of those, running back 3, running back 4s. I don't forget what it is. His ADP was pretty far out. So at least right now it is. So yeah, I think he's a good backup to have, especially in a full PPR league. I would draft him late.
If you want to sound smart in front of your buddies, you say he's more suited for best ball, I think. They'll be like, oh, that guy knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And then after the Patriots defense, after Alec Pierce and Chuba Hubbard, after Chase Claypool, but just before Ryan Tannehill, Gus Edwards, 202nd overall, RB63. Nobody's drafting him. I still believe in Gus Edwards a little bit. He's like Khalil Herbert. I watch him run and I say, that's a good running back.
You do smoke a lot of weed, don't you? All right. So Gus Edwards. Here's the thing. If you're going to draft J.K. Dobbins, then you have to draft Gus Edwards. If you don't draft J.K. Dobbins, then don't draft Gus Edwards.
That makes sense. Yeah, Dobbins, he played 8 games last year, none the year before. So that's right. I'm just going to stay away. I invested heavily in Ravens last year. I paid the price.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get out of here, any last thoughts about the expo? Any pitch we didn't get to?
I mean,
come to the expo.
Yeah,
it's going to be a blast.
Here's the two things I always say. Number one, have you ever been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? If that question is no, the next question is, do you play fantasy football? If that answer is yes, then you should be coming to the expo, because now you can do both at the same time. So grab all your friends, and ladies, you can, you're certainly welcome to come. More and more,
Yes.
Females are coming. This is not a male only thing. It's definitely a very diverse crowd. And by diverse, I mean every type, so don't think, well, I'm this, I'm that. No, there is no race. There is no sex. It's all fantasy football, folks. If you can talk fantasy football, I don't care if you're green and you're 6'5", just come and you'll enjoy yourself. It's a great time. And bring friends. I mean, make a weekend out of it. Look,
yeah,
we've got things. There's 2 parties, there's drafts. There's all kinds of fun things to do. And bring your wives. There's a really nice vineyard called Gervasi that's right down the road from where the expo is being held. You can spend the day there. They have spas, wine places, the distillery. It's like going into, it's amazing. It's in the middle of this, like, suburban USA, houses all around it. And you drive into this thing and it's like you're driving into Tuscany. It's amazing. It's beautiful. My wife loves the place. So bring your spouse, your significant other, drop them off, have them take the car, drop you off at the expo, and they can spend the day there. And I guarantee you they'll love it.
Angela's sold. She's into all that shit.
I'm all things alcohol. I mean, wine and
yeah. Oh, yeah, you'll love it. You definitely have to check that out. And we're working with them. We were going to try to figure out something like we can have like a special package where like you come and spend, for like noon to 4 or something, and go to the spa and do some wine testing and just enjoy the day, and all the ladies can all hang out together or whatever. But yeah, I'm obviously biased, but everybody that has been there says you got to come, enjoy it, and have fun. It's relaxing. It can be as relaxing or it can be as overwhelming as you want it to be. But you're definitely not going to be bored. That I will guarantee you. So check it out. It's thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Get your tickets before July 1st. They go up $10. The whole weekend package is right now only $85. And like I said, you get admission to both parties. You get a ticket to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is actually $41 now. Unbelievable. You get a T-shirt. You get a swag bag, which is full with all the coupons.
Love a free T-shirt.
Yeah. So, and you get that ticket to maybe win the $2,000 entry into the $1 million competition. So beautiful. All of that is included just for $85. It's a deal you can't pass up.
Let's go see the Football Hall of Fame and then win $1 million. I love it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Bob, for joining us. This has been awesome. We'll definitely do it again. Look forward to seeing you in August. Tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Of course, on Twitter at Bob_Lung. You can find the expo at the FF Expo on Twitter. And of course, get the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide on Amazon. Just type in the search Fantasy Football Guide. There it is, or Consistency Guide. And you will find it, and you can get it in 2 days if you're a Prime member. Perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed being on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go to patriotsportsnow.com. Find all our current goings on. Follow our new Twitter account at PSR Network, just like you'd spell it on a license plate. PSRNTWK. Okay, till next time, be good to each other. Chris, kick the outro music.
You've been listening to Patriot Sports Radio. If you're sick of all the national talking heads and biases of mainstream sports media, like we are, this show is for you. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. For more content and merch, hit up www.patriotsportsnow.com. Find us on Twitter at PatriotsPod, on Instagram and Facebook at Patriot Sports Now, and on Getter, Rumble, and YouTube at Patriot Sports. Take care, and we'll see you next time.